Okay, good afternoon everyone. I'm Jake Pollard, I'm the online editor of iGaming Business, and for today's webinar we have Mark Robinson, Chief Executive Officer of DeltaDNA, one of the leaders in real-time marketing for the online gaming space. So today's webinar is going to explore the current state of online marketing, how it can be improved, and how it can provide intelligent multi-channel relationships with players. Obviously, multi-channel being one of the key words here, very much trying to get a holistic view of the customer through the different channels available to them, whether that's desktop, mobile, even land-based in some cases, and so on. So for this webinar, we're very much driven by big data and the analytics that go with it. So whether it's gamification and insight of gamification of products and the insights those provide to operators in order to understand their players and respond appropriately to maximize lifetime value, engagement, and so on. So Mark will be addressing issues such as responsive onboarding, churn prevention and low balance management, recognizing problem gambling behaviors, VIP management, and delivering cross-promotion objectives. He'll give us a number of case studies with regards to work he has done with operators, so hopefully some really useful insights from that point of view. The presentation is roughly 25-30 minutes. As ever, we encourage interaction, so please do send in any questions during the webinar by email over to us, and we'll try our hardest to obviously get them answered at the end during the Q&A session. But anyway, let's get started. Mark, over to you. Thank you very much in advance. Thanks.
Great, thanks Jake, and welcome everybody. Thanks for your time today to talk a bit about some of the activity around real-time marketing, real-time personalization. I think it's a fair summary to say that activity in RMG has been quite focused on adding content over the last few years, broadening out casino games, poker, sports betting, slots, trying to reach into those different genres of gameplay, adding lots of content in terms of slot options and events and tournaments. And there's been some really exciting marketing, really creative marketing done during that time. But I think that it's clear to us that there's been a huge shift now away from content towards getting value out of the player relationships. And what I want to talk a bit about today is how you can use data, player insight, and multi-channel CRM to really build those strong relationships with players and increase your engagement levels, retention, and lifetime value. And of course, one aspect of that is real-time marketing. It's hugely valuable, but it does require some investment and some planning. So I want to share with you some of the steps that we take working with our operator clients to achieve multi-channel marketing, including real-time. So I'm going to talk a little bit about player analytics and segmentation, what sort of insights you can drive from the data that is very valuable. And I'll do that from a general perspective first of all, but I think the most important part of the presentation will be the second half, where we're going to cover some use cases and hopefully share with you some really interesting content in terms of actionable strategies, insight, things that we've found in terms of player behaviours that can really start to make the marketing teams engage with the way that we are building relationships with our players. My background is in statistics, and one of the things that I really get a kick out of is to work with our operator clients and really find out new facts, new behaviours about our players that we can action, and we can use that to really build the value into the relationship. So hopefully I'll share some of that stuff as we go through the next 30 minutes or so. So ultimately what we're aimed at today is to talk about how we can create responsive online experiences that are focused on individual players' needs and requirements and opportunities, that your multi-channel marketing is consistent and intelligent and is based on what you are able to discover from the data that is collected about the player behaviours. So if that's a reasonable summary, let me just start by telling you a little bit about us at DeltaDNA. DeltaDNA was founded, we're in Edinburgh. We were founded 6 years ago now, and we actually come from a combination of mobile, CRM, and gaming heritage. Founders are based in CRM practices and mobile game developers. And we've combined those two heritages into a real fascination about online experiences, understanding player journeys, and making sure that we can interact with the players. When I started my career, CRM and marketing was very slow. It was either based on email, and understanding responsiveness to email took some time. Now we're in a position where we can understand and interact with our players in real time, and the dynamics that produces in businesses is really exciting. It's a cultural thing that using data and segments to understand players and then interact with them needs to sit at the heart of the business. It also means that you can experiment quickly, and you can understand and build messaging strategies to players that are real and valuable. And we've done this over the last 5-6 years, working with some of the biggest names in the industry across video games and real money gaming. Both of those sectors have their own individual challenges, but at the heart, it's big data, it's real-time data, it's online experiences, and it's making sure that we're being intelligent in terms of the interactions that we provide to the individual consumer. So we have built a piece of technology, the DeltaDNA platform, which takes a live stream of data from your websites, from your apps, from your CRM and deposit systems, and combines that into a single view. You can interact with that data, data mining, segmentation, and then you can start to target through a variety of channels, email connectors, push notification, and real-time in-app messaging. So it's a full end-to-end suite to make the creation of the messaging strategy very much responsive to individual players, and also allow you to run the data mining exercises to give your marketing strategies the shape that will deliver that real value. So that's our background. And before we get into the case studies, let me talk a little bit about our perspective of the sort of state of play in real money gaming right now. I think it's fair to say that businesses have struggled with fragmented data. Obviously, there is a support network through platform suppliers that supply game content and services that come through to the operators. And there's a real melding of a variety of suppliers with particular strengths, particular service strengths, and some of the stuff that the operators address themselves. So the data is in different places and fragmented, but what we have seen over the last couple of years is a real onus and objective to get all of the data in one place with much more close data relationships between suppliers and operators, usually augmented by companies like DeltaDNA to get that data all into one place and provide a single view of the player. It has probably been true to say that there's an over-reliance on email marketing, and because the data has been fragmented, then the email marketing has tended to be broadly targeted. So it's been mainly promotion-based. It's not been that targeted at individual players and their betting history. So it's probably not unfair to say that the marketing has been pretty broad brush and pretty generic. And this is the big opportunity as the data becomes more consolidated to really put precision into the marketing based on knowledge of individual players and individual player segments. Obviously, the changes in tax regime, especially in the UK, mean that acquisition budgets are being squeezed. Operators are looking for more sophisticated solutions than using bonuses to drive traffic and drive deposits, and also make sure that when acquisition budgets are spent, that they're spent in the right places by targeting the high lifetime value and high engagement players. Problem gambling is high on the agenda, and real-time data, real-time feeds, as we're talking about today, can really start to provide solutions for operators in handling that particular issue. It's obviously very high up in the regulators' mindset at the minute, but there are distinct patterns of behaviour that we can recognise in the real-time stream of data that will alert operators to potential problems and be able to handle them through community managers and other sorts of interactions. And the final point is that there's, as you know, lots of competition out there. Therefore, email inboxes are noisy, it's hard to get cut through. So actually working the data harder, being more intelligent in front of your players and responsive to them will mean that your brand is uppermost as they think about where they're going to spend their betting money. So that's a bit of a summary of where we see the state of play. The opportunity against that is that there is a real drive now to consolidate the data to understand online customers, and everybody wins. The player wins through better experiences. The operators and the supplier win through higher engagement and more effective acquisition spend, longer and higher lifetime values. Also, to think about other channels that are within reach apart from email, and we'll talk a lot about in-game messaging, but also we can talk about push notification as well as another channel. And one of the keys there is to make those channels consistent so that the player is on the receiving end, feels that they're on the receiving end of an intelligent relationship, an intelligent set of communications from the operator. The other aspect of this, and this is something that our consulting team work a lot with our operators around, is gamification. Especially in our history with the video games, there are about 50 different game mechanics that come to play in the broad area of gamification that allows us to really build good relationships and good environments for players. It's probably fair to say that lobbies tend to be quite confusing and overwhelming for new players. Some of the best practice gamification techniques that we've developed and delivered over the last few years really will help improve the environment, especially to novice players, to get them into a comfortable zone within that environment. So we know that the first 60 seconds is absolutely vital. We know that we need to signpost people towards the right content for them. We know that we need to give them a reason to come back, being very clear, being very concise, making the environment unthreatening to all types of players is absolutely vital, and that is a key aspect of using the data and understanding how we can create these environments through gamification and messaging. So the big opportunity here is to understand the players and think about segment-based communication strategies, not just tactical campaigns that are individual and discrete themselves. The communication strategies should come through a real understanding of your player segments. Those segments can be different types of segments. One common type of segmentation is the usual recency, frequency, and value type of segmentation. But we've had real success at using some of the in-game data to start to think about behaviours in terms of attitude to risk, levels of aggression, levels of caution, how sociable players are. There's lots of additional in-game data that we can use to really get a handle on the different characteristics of the players that are in your base, and through doing that, deploy relevant marketing. So, I think that we're entering a phase in RMG where development and retention are the key focus. Through data and insight and marketing, that is where operators are going to win, and supported by suppliers and companies like ourselves. And there's a big opportunity for real money gaming to get good at this stuff really quickly and take advantage of the tremendous asset they have in terms of the committed player base that they've generated up to now. So some of the areas that we will focus on in support of our operator clients, combining consultancy and real-time marketing technology. Where we really see the benefit starting to appear quickly is in first deposit, getting to first deposit, making sure that the onboarding is responsive, putting triggers in to prevent churn and to respond to what the players are doing as they move through that onboarding funnel. Churn prevention is a very vital area, as you'll understand. Low balance management, understanding behaviours around players and how they deposit, how they use their wallet. Content targeting, there's lots and lots of content out there, as we talked about before, but it's getting the right content in front of the right players to improve that experience. And cross-promotion is another vital one. Operators now offer across-the-board gaming experiences. One vital component to unlock the value of that investment is to make sure that as many players as possible are experiencing different game genres. And so understanding the triggers and the behaviours that will enable players to convert across multiple game types is vital in terms of unlocking that value. And finally, VIP management, getting players to VIP status and managing them proactively as they are interacting with you in the game. And we'll talk a bit around particular use cases in each of these areas. And there are others, but these are the 5 main areas where deployment of the DeltaDNA technology and approach has great benefit. So how to get closer to players? The first port of call is the data. And the more data that you have on a player, the better you'll understand that player. A great start is the operator data. This is generally the CRM data, what campaigns have been sent, what campaigns have been responded to. Deposit information and account information that can start to segment players around recency, frequency, value of their gameplay. And that will get us to a certain level of sophistication in terms of CRM. Actually, when you start to overlay that with the in-game data, generally from the supplier, so we can start to understand in-game behaviours, playing styles, attitude to risk, competency, these sorts of things. That's when you really start to unlock fascinating things about your player base, and it starts to get the marketing ideas and the creative guys thinking about how to build the sorts of relationships that the players are looking at. So it all starts with the data, and as I said before, there is a real drive in the industry for the operators and the suppliers to work with providers like ourselves to get that data in good shape. Once that data is in good shape, then we can really start to test and learn on different marketing campaigns. So we often are challenged by our operators to tell them things about their player base that they don't know, and that then will drive a set of campaign ideas And one of our key recommendations for our clients is that we work together to quickly get into the culture of testing and learning. So we'll try different campaign ideas on different kind of communities of players. We will measure the outcome either by running A/B tests or by looking closely at campaign evaluations. And we will feed that back through the business so that we are using the data and the player segments to really learn about our players and their wishes and their needs, so that we're constantly iterating and optimizing the environment and the campaign strategy to make sure that, as I said before, the player relationship is intelligent, it's consistent, and it's timely, and building great brand reputation along the way. So one of the ways that we start to think about this and building up the capabilities here is in three particular phases. First phase that we call CRM Foundations. This is where we know the betting and deposit history, we know previous responses, and we can start to segment players in terms of their spend, the intensity of their gameplay, and their genre interests. We can deploy A/B testing strategies, and we can run email and push campaigns to then understand in detail who's responsive to those campaigns and to iterate around that process. When you start to add in-game behaviours in phase 2, then the real-time data gets unlocked. You can start to augment your initial player segmentations with behaviours and playing styles. You can start to understand the whole experience, the player life cycle from onboarding to churn. You can really get very detailed information on the first-time user experience, for example, and understand where the blockers are in the environment, where players get confused, why they leave, where they leave, and how you can optimize the environment. So that data is absolutely vital to unlock the value in the CRM programs, using funnels, real-time data to understand the player journey. Then you can improve the targeting through this, and you can set up interventions in the environment to manage the players at particular parts of their playing lifestyle. Obviously, you can also assess gamification opportunities and feed them back into the environment, and start to think about multi-channel segment-based strategies for your marketing. The last phase then is when you start to move fully into real-time personalization. So you've got the real-time feed of data coming out of the game and combining that with the lobby level data, the deposit level data, and then actually having the return trip back into display messages on websites and in the app, where you can really start to think about real-time interventions. And quite a lot of the case studies that we're just about to move on to will cover that as a particular aspect of the activity. So it's a multi-channel approach with in-game push and email all playing their part. You know, the environment actually becomes responsive to the individual players, and we maximize retention and lifetime value on the way through. So it's intelligent, consistent, and timely. So let's, on the basis of that context, let's move on quickly to talk about specific examples. And I'll go through these relatively quickly. And obviously, after the webinar, we are very happy to share this content with the audience. But here's an example where we're at the onboarding stage of the player life cycle. So this is a new player that's come into the game. We know from the real-time data that they've browsed around the content. It's been mainly poker they've been looking at, but they've abandoned without a deposit, and we can use the real-time funnels aspect of the platform to highlight where the issues were or where the blockers were in terms of that engagement. One obvious thing to do is to target email immediately after the first session and promote training options, promote free-to-play. You know, understand that they probably left because they were a novice player and unfamiliar with the environment, and we need to give them the easy nursery slopes version of real money gaming. you can also augment that in-game by tracking training achievements if they come back into the game, trigger new player bonuses, and move them around the environment so that you can convert them to deposit, having pushed them through a more suitable version of the environment or place in the environment for them to really get engaged first. So using email and in-game real-time interventions in tandem like that, we can track through the whole journey to save people from that abandonment. Obviously, a lot of operators will do a reactivation email for players that haven't been seen in a few days, but then actually being responsive to them as they come back in is incredibly vital and will ensure that email activity pays off as much as possible. Another onboarding behavior that we can see is when a potential VIP occurs. We've seen a new player come through, they make a large deposit in the first session, they've played intensely on slots, long session, high value bets, they've actually settled onto their favourite machine fairly quickly. So they're pretty expert, they know what they want to do in terms of the environment, and we can respond to that using the real-time feed, thinking about interventions specific to those players, thanking them for the deposit, making it very personalised, naming them and actually quoting the amount, promoting events based on their initial gameplay, promoting the reward schemes for VIP schemes available to ensure that they can hook into the whole environment and the whole relationship very early, and promote game recommendations. If we can do all of that during the first session, that's great, because the players will leave the first session with a great impression of what they can achieve next. And that's one of the vital things in terms of signposting, is to make sure that you show the players the good stuff as early as possible, so that makes them encouraged to come back. Emails also play a part here, where you can follow up with details of the loyalty scheme after the first session, and you can provide links back to favourite games. So you're using the different channels in tandem to really help the player get the sort of experience that they want. Next example is content targeting. So we're a little bit deeper into the gameplay here. We know, for example, that this player has a preference in poker for particular tables. They've got a gambling style that is cautious. They play regularly, though, consistently and with moderate deposits. And they've got good engagement with poker tournaments with reasonable outcomes. So this is a really solid player, and this is a valuable player. So we want to make sure that our marketing recognises this, promoting special events through email based on particular table preferences, styles, and competency that the player has. Personalized deposit bonuses, and also in game we can use this information to prompt suitable tables when they're available, or even push notification can be used in this instance. So with joined up data, then we can start to really see how we can understand the playing styles and then respond to those playing styles by making offers and making interventions that are relevant. This is churn prevention. This is deeper into the game with an engaged player. So we've got a slots player here with shorter sessions and lower bets. We see that their momentum is waning. They're at risk of leaving, and we can run predictive models to understand this and sweep these players into a targeting group. Some of the things that can be done are signposting. So if there are sort of achievement tasks that we can incentivize players towards and give them rewards for those sorts of achievement tasks, whether it's sort of number of sessions or number of different machines played, we want to keep them in the environment, so let's reward them for giving us that time, offering free spins or new machine unlocks. And this is a really important aspect where gamification through the DeltaDNA platform can have a great effect in terms of triggering, understanding where momentum is waning, triggering activity and target groups around those players that are at risk of leaving and doing it intelligently. This example comes from sports betting, and there's a lot of times where punters will get bets about Tottenham when they're Arsenal fans, and with the joined up data we can really understand the betting history. We know a guy likes Liverpool, bets on Liverpool, hasn't shown any interest in casino games but has engaged with some previous poker tournaments sporadically. And obviously we can target email with forthcoming Liverpool games and bets, special odds to encourage that sort of loyalty and click-through. Cross-promotion for entry-level poker tournaments is a possibility. And in-game we can start to think about triggering Liverpool bets during the game, because we know that the betting history, we've categorized them into their interests and their likes, so we can become more refined in our targeting. Last couple of examples. VIP management. This is a longer-term slots player that deposits often and engages well with deposit bonuses. We can trigger offers on low balances, and we can highlight continued loyalty schemes. The message is personalized. It shows their status and their incentive and reward structure. Makes the players feel special. It is genuinely a personalized approach, and it builds engagement. We see that there's between a 30 and 40% improvement in dwell times for sessions based on this much more targeted approach to your core playing base. And finally, we've got VIP management and cross promotion. So we've got guys here where we see a real affinity to poker. There's been some interest in blackjack. So the sorts of things that we can do for VIP management is respond immediately in real time to losses and commiserate or bonus back some of the losses. That's a very effective way of keeping these very high value players in the environment or keeping them loyal to the brand. We can promote blackjack to reduce burnout. We can understand when a VIP player has probably played enough, and we can take them to another part of the environment to recharge the batteries, if you like. That is a very effective way of keeping the relationship strong. And we can continue to do that with in-game interventions, but also back that up with email, communicating VIP benefits, promote high-stake VIP events, and cross-promote to blackjack with free bets. So there's another example of there's been very effective of in-game messaging and email working in tandem with push to reinforce messages and improve the conversion rates across the board. So that's a quick tour through some of the case studies. Obviously, a lot of these examples are generated from the knowledge that is driven from the data. The insight tends to come first, and then the marketing and the targeting follow afterwards. Then the evaluation happens after that to make sure that it's as effective as possible. But we're getting to a really interesting and rewarding place in RMG where we've got single view of players, we've got deep and rich data to build those intelligent interactions, and ultimately we're enhancing the player experience. There's also, as well as marketing, there's examples of use of this data and approach in fraud and problem gambling. But overall, it has a tremendously positive impact on your income and your retention levels. And we have got a lot more that we can achieve through this data and through this approach. But I hope that that gives you a sense of what some of the really advantageous activities that we've been working with our operators to deploy to build these better experiences. So that's the end of the presentation. I hope that that's been useful. I can answer any particular questions right now, or we're very happy to share the content of the of the presentation with you guys in due course. So I'll hand back over to Jake at this point.
Okay, thanks very much, Mark. Okay, well, we have a few questions already from some of the listeners. We've got Matthew McCulley, who's asking, who manages the consolidated player data? So is the relationship between the DeltaDNA system and the host iGaming system two-way, i.e. would the marketing messages be generated by DeltaDNA?
Yes, so the platform that we've built consolidates the data from a variety of sources in-game or websites or other transactional systems. We then consolidate that data into a single view of players in the DeltaDNA platform, and the platform has got an SDK that allows us to message back into the lobby, into the games, and so actually one of the great advantages of the system is that once the system is implemented, then the analytics guys and the marketers work in tandem and don't require any further development resource to try different campaigns, to set up different A/B tests, to evaluate their messaging strategies. So they become fully autonomous and self-sufficient in terms of running these test and learn exercises and deploying their marketing strategies.
Okay, cool. Sorry, apologies to everyone. I sort of got slightly confused. I mixed Matthew's first question with another listener's question, but it kind of follows on, to be fair. But I'll get on to the second question now from Gideon Beer. Hi, Gideon. Hope you're well. So Gideon's asking. So I kind of tagged his start of his question onto to the first one. So apologies for that, but I'll follow up with the rest. Are the messages executed through the host platform or outside it, direct to the player? So how do you ensure consistency with these platforms if you go outside of the operator platform? I'm assuming that's what Gideon means, Mark.
So this is always a three-way partnership between the platform supplier, DeltaDNA, and the operator. And obviously we need to make sure that any messaging strategies that are deployed outside this environment are not going to jar with the objective of the DeltaDNA CRM tool. What tends to happen is that the other sorts of contacts are more administrative type of contacts, and the marketing contacts would be generated from the DeltaDNA platform. But as long as there's transparency, then there's not an issue, and this can then be rolled into an overall communication strategy.
Okay. And is the system live in retail land-based, or is it purely for online or mobile, generally speaking?
It's online and mobile focused.
Okay.
So a lot of the work in terms of the development of the platform and the capability has been real-time messaging into apps.
Yeah.
We then can deploy messaging into websites and through email. So it is multi-channel, but the core of the system is real-time data collection and real-time messaging back into these online environments.
Yeah, okay. And, well, just a follow-up question on that land-based operations. Gideon's asking, could your system capture data from land-based operators if that data was available to you?
Absolutely. We can take data from a variety of sources and build that into the single view. So we have talked to land-based operations as they start to think about their broader CRM strategies.
Yeah, right.
companion apps within land-based casinos, interacting with the games in land-based casinos. I think that is a conversation that will continue to accelerate. So there's certainly various opportunities there to explore as well.
No, of course, and I mean, just thinking, say, of the U.S. market, when you think of some of the massive social casino operations that those casinos own and operate as well, it's kind of, it seems like a logical step to take.
Exactly.
How is player info shared across vendors? I'm not quite sure what. It's another follow-up question from Matthew McCulley, but not quite sure what he means by vendors if he's talking about people such as you, DeltaDNA. Presumably, you obviously don't share the player info with other vendors.
No, the player data is fundamentally the operator's data, and they fundamentally own the consumer, the player's relationship. Obviously, the suppliers, the platform suppliers, contribute data into that environment. But there's no sharing of data. The data is extremely important to us that the data is secure and confidential and not shared. It remains the property of the operator client. That is who we're working for in terms of improving the player relationship.
Of course, okay. Got another question from Daniel Kustelski, who's asking, are there insights we can glean from customers who come in and only take part in sports betting bets? Are they prone to play poker, slots, table games, and so on, in order to be proactive on the first engagement? So I guess what Daniel's asking is more a case of how can you cross-sell to those people more proactively and more efficiently, I guess?
Well, one of the things that I would suggest is that don't try and cross-sell too early in the relationship. I think that the player has come in and they're interested in sports betting and they will interact with you in that environment. And the first thing to do is to learn as much as possible about what the player's requirements are in that environment, understand their betting history, what their interests are. And first step, take this in baby steps, cross-promote within sports betting. So if it's a football guy, maybe try some tennis, or some golf. The thing about CRM is that although there are best practices, actually the best way to proceed is to experiment in a controlled way. So, and that means running A/B tests, and it also means evaluating the outcomes from campaigns, so that you've got a guy that's come in and very focused on Liverpool bets. You tried Ryder Cup, they didn't respond to that. Then you learn from that. Don't offer them Ryder Cup again. But the guys that did respond to Ryder Cup, you've got a cross-sell there. And you can build that relationship up gradually. Don't try and force it too quickly, and then you can maybe make bigger moves across to other genres of games.
Yeah, sure. Actually, I mean, just it's interesting that you mentioned those examples, because I mean, is it an indictment of operators that we need companies like DeltaDNA, if you see what I mean? I mean, is it worth asking, have operators been doing so badly at just generating numbers without really targeting all the data, and you making use of the data they have at hand over all these years, because they've had the data there for more than 10 years, some of them? Is that a fair indictment of the operators, or am I being a bit looking for bigger control?
Well, if it was specific to real money gaming, then that's probably fair enough. But actually, CRM is a particular specialism. It does require investment. It does require cultural dynamics within the business, so that you actually will take decisions off the data rather than sort of anecdotally or on the seat of your pants. It's not RMG. It's not specific to RMG that that occurs. All sectors they could use their data better. I think RMG has got specific challenges about fragmentation of data that have are now starting to be addressed. So, I mean, I would say that, of all of the sectors, RMG is getting its act together on this. There's a long way to go, but there's lots and lots of opportunities. So this is becoming a boardroom table discussion, whereas before, 5 years ago, it wasn't at that level that data was really talked about.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's true. That's a fair point. Okay. Just a couple more questions for you. So, how does behavioural segmentation differ from CRM segmentation?
I think this is a really interesting area because the in-game data does unlock a lot of information about the player and their mindset, their playing style, their competency. And this is great information for marketers to start to devise not just the targeting of campaigns, but the tone of the text, the look and feel. We know whether people are novices or experts, highly competent or not so competent. We know whether they play broadly across different games or they study one slot machine. We know their attitude to risk. All of these things are incredibly valuable, and I think this is the exciting thing about RMG, that probably unlike most other sectors, they can get closer to the player through the data than many sectors. You might not feel like you're on the end of an intelligent relationship with your bank, but that's probably because they don't know very much about you. In the sort of online gaming environment, we can not only understand the player, but also, as I was saying in the presentation, be mindful of the player and interact with them, not only to improve engagement and lifetime value, but also to protect them, by recognizing problem gambling, and protect the organization through recognition of fraud as well.
Yeah, definitely reputation and fraud and the like, yeah. Okay, and so where in-game do you use the real-time marketing? Once the player is in-game, how does the real-time marketing come into play then?
Well, it's important that you don't disrupt the play. So the worst thing to do is to get a pop-up in the middle of your poker hand or some area of intense concentration. So that is where, when we're configuring the system, we're mindful to make sure that the messaging triggers are set at breaks in the play, whether it's players returning to the lobby, or ending a hand, or some break in the play is the best place to think about these interventions.
Okay. And do you ever get negative feedback from some of these in-game marketing that do operators ever come back to you with feedback saying, X number of players moaned about this or that, or?
Well, the whole point of this is to enhance the experience. So you should be putting the right content or the right offer in front of people. There's no significant harm that comes of it, because the intervention should be a positive one. Obviously, we can refine the targeting to improve the response rate and the conversion rate, but one of the key factors of the system is to make sure that there's rules of engagement in place so that players aren't over-messaged. It's very easy for CRM programs to really hammer a lot of content at players and do that fairly indiscriminately. With this more intelligent approach, one of the things that you can do is actually put in thresholds in terms of the number of contacts that you would provide to players in any one session or in any one time frame, so that you're being totally responsible and responsive to the communication density.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's all about the judicious use of information to enhance businesses, isn't it? It's no point carpet bombing them with all types of messages if it's just going to push us to.
I think it's really interesting, that the most successful operators that we work with really embrace data and put it at the heart of their culture. So, they are looking at, the impact of their marketing programs in terms of, the response rates and the increase in retention, the increase in lifetime value, and they are learning every day about, the interaction with their players. And that's really exciting.
Yeah, and that's the whole idea. Yeah, definitely. Okay, good stuff. Okay, well, we're coming to the end of our allocated time, so we'll wrap things up. But Mark, thanks very much for what was a really interesting session, and obviously to all the listeners, the recording will be made available to you just the time it takes for us to convert it and digitize it and everything. And Mark's presentation, I believe, is probably also available to you, or his information is there on that final screen, should you wish to get more information from him on any of his products. But Mark, in the meantime, many thanks for your time on this, and to all the listeners as well, and I'm sure see you soon.
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Bye.